Buddha or Jesus or, that type. And, maybe if you're that type of yogi, you don't have to worry about those things anymore. I'm real clear today that I'm not. I'm not that extraordinary yogi. I'm the other one that's described there, the ordinary yogi, which means I got to keep doing the practices and I got to keep doing the work and I got to keep ideas of mindfulness, right? To keep me on track in this way versus ever going back down that way again, because I never want to do that one again.
You and me both. Well, that's very well put. And I believe that it's, staying on that path takes effort, consistent effort, persistent effort, and that openness to say, oh, you know what? I want to be free of that.
That's right.
And it doesn't serve me. And maybe it did at one time. Let's point in this direction. And I do believe that we create those new neural pathways through repetition and practice, and they get stronger. And I, of course, I'm not a neuropsychologist or any of that, but those old neural pathways, the less we use them, the less pull they have on us.
That's right.
So it's almost like, I like the analogy of if you're walking through a trail in the forest, you go down this path over and over again, it becomes worn and very well defined. If you abandon this old path, it will eventually get grown over and over and over time. Traces of it are still there.
That's right.
And we can choose to revisit, and it could be, painful because it's, and old, and it won't be the same. So I'm all for that, moving forward in that way. That way,
right?
Exactly.
What served? That's my big question to myself. Anytime I've got a doubt or a question or a concern, and this I learned from my teacher, from Gary. My question is, does this serve what I say is most important to me? And so that means keeping clear what's most important to me. And that's how I make my decisions. Is this going to serve? Is this going to move me down that pathway and serve what I say is most important to me? And that has been a key teaching for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why we have you here. I love it. And I, have to thank you for your teaching. I love the philosophy and your own depth into all this work. And, you and Marcia were really my first two teachers as I stumbled into teacher training, almost 10 years ago here.
I remember it well.
Yeah. And and it really introduced me to the broader aspects of yoga. And of course, I was always an avid, really just reading everything I could about yoga. And I needed that experience of the training to start embodying, not so many words now, just let's have a felt sensation, have what does this stuff really mean? And I love how the commentaries on the Yoga Sutras that you alluded to and talked about, there's just those little threads of few words packed with meaning that's potentially maybe grown over the centuries, but our understanding of it is still not 100% clear, because I think it does evolve as we evolve.
It's alive.
It's alive.
Right. It's organic and alive.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Right. And I love making it practical. I think that's been one of my big focuses is it can get real theoretical and it can get, a little airy-fairy and all of those kinds of things. My big deal in the 12-step program, particularly, we say it's through understanding and application. And that's another and. It's through understanding and application that it works. And that I love to apply to everything in my life, right? I love the idea of understanding, but I don't want to be a person who talks a talk without walking a walk.
Right.
And so for me, that's part of the application. So it's by understanding and application that this thing works. And I love the practical application of the Yoga Sutras, of the Upanishads, all of those things in life, in this moment, in this very precious present moment.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm a big fan of the present moment. And of course, I have a teacher that says that, it's too much talk of present moment. That's all there is anyway, but it's important for, I think, our Western culture to remember we spend so much time living in the past or in the future that what really matters is like right here and now. And it's been said so many beautiful ways over time, but that the essence of the breath that we talk about in yoga becomes this foundation of getting us here now.
It really
doesn't it?
Absolutely. And, I'll talk all the time. For me, it's not just breath, right? Because you're breathing all the time, sometimes very unconsciously. It's realigning the mind and the breath. When I realign those two things, when I realign the mind with the breath, I have to be in present time, because you can't breathe in the past and you can't breathe in the future, right? The only possibility when those things are aligned is to be in the present moment, because that's the only place really that you can breathe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's, I think all the work you're doing speaks to that intention about being present, being really engaged in what's serving you to move forward. And, I was always taught it's okay to plan a direction that you want to go, but be cautious to not invest a lot in the results. Mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
The Bhagavad Gita talks about that.
Absolutely.
And all that, where it's just like, okay, find that alignment you talked about and head in that direction and see what happens. Isn't that? And you have a lot happening. I mean, I was trying to think. We really go way back to one of my sons played football with one of your grandsons in high school.
That's right.
And that was probably over 10 years ago. Yep. It was years ago. And
and then the house.
And
then Cityoga. It's amazing.
So I'm wondering, like, okay, how's the universe conspiring here? There's a connection. Yeah. And that has been like an honor to be, like, you started Cityoga with this sense of community and an urban environment, which, much like our own journey that you mentioned, is evolving continuously. And I've watched the area around Cityoga in the past 5 years has changed tremendously. Mm-hmm. And big construction for infrastructure projects, certain level of gentrification going on, honoring some of the historical legacy of the area. And what's interesting when we do block parties and community events through our business co-op is the diversity is really strong. I can walk through we do a beginning of the summer kind of block party and another one at the end of the year. And it's just really gratifying to see all these young families, retired folks or empty nesters mixing up with maybe single young professionals, millennials, all kinds of ethnic and gender diversity. And it's just beautiful to see a community that's very vibrant and very integrated comes into mind, but it's certainly not the right word. I think it's an honoring of differences.
Yeah.
And it seems in a very accepting way when you see a large, a couple hundred people, all walks of life, and they're interacting in a very community-oriented way. And the kids are playing, and the grown-ups are talking, and the local vendors are selling food and adult beverages, and all. It's just a rich community, and it seems like the growth and change around here is only enhancing that. And there's always this danger of people getting priced out of the market, or it becoming too one centered around one, group of people.
Yeah.
And I feel like what I've observed is it's keeping a nice blend. And I thought you picked a good spot when you brought City here.
It was some time ago. And, I don't know exactly what that thought process was in picking this spot. It's interesting. I haven't been around the community. This community, it's clear, has grown and has changed. But, this hasn't been my everyday community now for a while. I'm not down here every day for a while. I'd be interested to walk around and be around here a little bit more to see, what all the changes are about, and what's happening now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's really just it's amazing to watch. We have some local breweries, which enhances what's going on with some of the neighborhood. We've got a Tamika Catchings, a retired Hall of Famer, has a Tease Me
Now there
cafe.
I have been, which I love.
And she's been a pillar in the community for helping with our small business co-op, and she's a very, takes a leadership role in gathering people. It's really,
she's
really
a
good.
Pretty amazing woman.
She is. And so we have these different leaders popping up that are vested in seeing this community grow and stay and grow in its own diversity and its own richness. And what enriches us individually enriches us all. And the city's doing their part in putting a new bridge and building light rail. Well, I guess the red line's going to be a green public transit. It's electric buses, which the initial plan was a light rail, but that's a whole nother story. So it's we'll have the red line coming through that will connect downtown and Broad Ripple and other parts of the city. And it's high-speed electric bus. So it's going to be working on that green side of things.
Love it. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yes, very much.
Yeah.
The projects I saw coming up on your feed, one was Urban Outreach Program.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah. I'm not crazy about that name. It has the word urban has some implications. So we're about to change that name.
Okay.
It's going to just be the Y12SR Outreach Program. And that is where through grants and donations, we pay yoga teachers to go into communities that really couldn't afford to pay them to bring the benefits of Y12SR. So, once you are a Y12SR quote unquote leader, and it's not really a leader, it's a space holder more than anything else. We will support you to go into communities that probably couldn't, pay you. They're more underserved, under-resourced communities. With treatment centers and things like that.
Okay.
And we will pay yoga teachers to go into those communities. And we're very fortunate. We've gotten several nice sized grants. So we have this fund that is just for that, paying yoga teachers to go into these communities and bring the benefits, the healing benefits of this combination, this marrying of yoga and the 12-step program. And so, it's been wonderful. That program has been around now for about, 5 years, about 5 years. And so it's ongoing, and we hope to be able to continue that forever. Yeah.
Well, that's great, because a lot of whether it's a treatment center or halfway house, transitional living, creating that sustainability is always a challenge, right?
That's it. And, in order for it to work, it should be a win-win-win, a win for all the parties involved in any kind of way, which means that yoga teachers should get paid, right? It takes money to drive to places, and there's time involved, and there's skill